Get some grass. It's the day after Groundhog Day, February 3rd. I'm gonna get down here. We happen to have some long grass that I let get overgrown. So I'm gonna do something like this. So here it's not farm to table, it's yard to table. Okay, like there's Iron Chef, this is the Rusty Chef.
This is the Rusty Chef.
Okay, these tortoises, portion size depends on if they're gonna graze that day, and should be probably 1 to 3 times the size of their shell, however large they are. For large tortoises, 2/3 of that may be them eating grass outside, as you'll see. A couple notes on that: you can't force feed tortoises, and they're not going to overeat if they can exercise. Oh, while we're talking about food, it's important to note that they may like versions of poop that they find around the yard. Bird poop is a significant part of their diet. So much so, when Stump was young, I referred to him as a tortoise, not a tortoise. Bird poop, and then he moved on to chipmunk poop, deer poop, rabbit poop, and all other kind of poop. Seemed like it was his sole motivation to get up in the morning was to go outside so he could look for poop. That was the first year of his life. Yeah, he kind of naturally grew out of that, but I discouraged the eating of the bird poop because of diseases and everything else, and pan to all of this nonsense and monstrosity. He has other things to eat that are more nutritious than bird poop. Okay, so you ask yourself, what is all this? Well, we have different kinds of Mazuri. We have his calcium powder, different greens, the grass I cut from the yard, and then from a gentleman out on the West Coast, a bunch of dried leaves of various kinds: moringa, red clover, alfalfa, dandelion, and mulberry. And I kind of pick one a day, just that's the flavor of the day, and I do it for both of the tortoises. So one of the most important tools you need, sharp knife. You're gonna be using it, 2 years, over 700 times. You probably use this in a cutting board. Don't start with some small dinky one, because you're gonna feel like you work at a grocery store or something when you're, or a restaurant when you're doing this every day. I'm gonna show you how long it takes to prepare what 2 little tortoises need, the way I do it. Let's get started. I'm going to do a section on Mazuri. So this brand of food, I contacted the manufacturer when Stump was small, and they said you're supposed to use the small tortoise, very small pellets, for the first year. There's a higher protein content, and you're supposed to use that for the first year just to help them along, and then they switch to the regular larger pellet Mazuri, the regular LS, which stands for low starch. What I do, the first thing I do is, I'm gonna do this really fast, the way I normally do it. Water gets hot. I have very little for the pinch, about this much of the, here, you can look in there, about that much. And then what I do for the other stuff is I put a little bit of orchard grass, and then fill the rest with Mazuri. It ends up being about a half of this cup. And then it thoroughly soaks all the pellets. There you go. So first thing is that's just waiting to go on the top as a topping. Second thing, I grab the greens. I make 2 piles. I have a little tortoise that you'll see. He gets all the tips, and where it's tender, no stems, all of that, I set it aside for later. This is kale, there's some bok choy, Endive. And then we have some
Escarole.
escarole over here. So the green part, when your tortoise is little, I just grab mostly the tips of things or the good stuff, the darker nutrient kind of produce, and leave that for the small guy. And the big guy's gonna eat everything and grass and go out today because it's nice. So I kind of set the stuff I'm gonna chop up or the remainder left over. So this is about what I did yesterday. And here, when we talk about chopping it up, I've seen him eat a clover in the yard, so I try to keep the produce to the size of a clover, maximum, just to simulate, you know, what he normally eats. I don't let him pick off this. You have to make sure, number one, you saw how I use the stems, or you can see how I use the tips of the leaves and not the stems. I know there's nothing in here that he can possibly choke on. This is all fresh greens. So the second step is, what's it going to be today? Red clover, whatever. It's going to be a moringa day. So I'm putting about this much dried greens in his. He also likes radicchio, but for him, since he's small, I make a real small slice. Put that over there with Stumpies. But I get some small stuff in here, add it in. Okay, so this ends up being what the little guy will get, and you'll see how small he is. This is probably 2 times the size of his shell. And he'll eat this today. He already has a little bit back on his plate.
Oh no, he finished that.
Oh, he finished that. Goodness, that looks a little old. One of the things they like this fresh. I've never been able to feed them stuff that's a day old. They don't like it, or they refuse it. So I just move that to here, and then I take the Mazuri, the small stuff that has been soaking. And that goes right on top. I just kind of spread it around. When he was small, I had to mash it up, or he wouldn't eat any of it. I had to mash this up and do like a paste, like peanut butter, and then basically put it on the leaves. But
now he likes it.
That's his. That's his. And because he's very impatient, I'm gonna go give that to him now, and then continue with the rest of this because he's impatient. Now it's going to be Stumpy's meal. First thing, I have some cactus chips that I'm going to soak in here with these pellets. Just absorb enough moisture into those, and those will get cut at the end of this. So those are cactus chips. We have grass from earlier. Sticking the grass on the chopping block. When he's eating this out in the yard, he sucks them down like spaghetti noodles. So this is like his, I guess, a tortoise version of pasta, it seems. So that's his grass. And then when it comes to the greens, bok choy, I take like this and just cut off the bottom. He seems to like the crunch, as you'll see, of the stems. And they're juicy. So then he gets a big slice of the radicchio.
It's his favorite, almost.
His favorite.
That's his favorite.
This much every day. And then one thing I have to make sure with the radicchio is that the centerpiece is discarded.
Right.
So there's nothing hard for him to choke on or anything in there. Then some of that. A little bit of kale or whatever you have around.
That's it. You already put that in there. Oh, that's a huge plate. He's gonna go out.
It's a huge plate and he's gonna go out, but his shell is getting bigger. And his snack last night was around just like what you saw. I cut off the radicchio and he ate it all for a snack right before he went to bed. So the grass is kind of off to the side here where I'm not gonna be cutting it much more. And then I'm just going much larger, but just chopping it up, making sure there's no sections. And I do it one direction. This is why you need a big cutting board, obviously. And then once this is done, I rotate it. Do the same thing the other direction. And then where I have the smaller pieces, you know, do your chop up so you don't have anything that could get lodged in their throat. Only a couple things I've had lodged in his throat. One time he tried to eat a rock and I tried to get it out, and there was another time where he ate a piece of cherry bark. And then I took that out of his mouth and he gave me a flip. All right, that's about it. Now this really is like a chef show. You have to present it right too.
Okay, Stumpy.
Yeah, you gotta present it right. You
Oh my gosh.
You gotta have this here, all the stuff, and then you have to mix up some of the grass in there, like this. Just make a plate. Now he gets his cactus chunks and orchard grass and kind of everything.
You forgot to sprinkle the calcium powder this time.
No, that's last.
Oh, okay. There we go.
So Mazuri has all of the nutrition that he needs, including calcium. But we use this, and we have found that he tends to eat mineral-rich things like rocks and things like that less when he has this powder.
Yep.
Oh, look, he's emerged. You can walk around here. He's emerged. So Stump, now here's the chopping. He knows what's going on and responds appropriately.
Hey, Stumpo.
So, okay.
Hey, buddy.
Now, like with this little thing, I'm gonna put it up here so the plate kind of comes back to him because he's ridiculous like that.
He's spoiled.
There you go, buddy.
You can pull back the top there. Hey, bud. Time to wake up.
Breakfast in bed. Waste no time. He approves.